Massage therapists of Reddit, what are some of your most awkward or disgusting experiences with clients? My mother has been a massage therapist for over 20 years. She's in her 50s, and she loves it. She massages a lot of elderly people, doesn't mind. Massages a few obese people, doesn't mind. To her, people are people, and she's not easily disgusted. But when people proposition her for sex, she minds. One particularly troubling encounter was when she was massaging a friend's husband, and he thought it would be appropriate to ask for sexual favors. A large female client wanted focus on her glutes. Needless to say, I was farted on while she was asleep. Her own fart woke her up, and she then accused me of farting, because there were trace amounts of fart still in the air. I've had clients ask if they could massage me, specifically my ass, while I was working on them. One woman tried to put her face in my crotch and told me she would love to eat me out. For the record, I was wearing yoga pants as I'm also a yoga instructor. Many people are surprised how strong I am and comment on it and how small my hands are. That's not odd. What was odd was the guy who followed that observation up with telling me that I also had like a Wolverine. Not sure if that's a good or bad thing. Former massage therapist here. I used to work in the YMCA in my hometown. There was a group of 4 old ladies, around their early 50s, that all played tennis together and afterwards took turns getting massaged. At first it was great. They were mostly doctors' wives, fairly easygoing, and generous tippers to boot, but then things took a turn for the strange. One woman offered me a diamond tennis bracelet if I agreed to switch the order they were massaged in, and did her first. I declined the gift, but promised to use a rotating schedule in the future. She was fine at first, but slowly became more aggressive. She would beg and bribe me to extend her half hour for 10 or 15 minutes, in spite of her waiting friends. She constantly offered me expensive presents, shopping, home-cooked meals, all kinds of things I was uncomfortable accepting. The more I declined her offers, the weirder and edgier she seemed to get around me. Finally, I guess she got tired of beating around the bush, so to speak, and made an outright advance by grabbing my hand and forcing onto her breast. I told her I was very flattered, but I wasn't interested in other women this way. She screamed, perfectly in range for all of her friends and all of my co-workers to hear, about how I had been leading her on for months, and how I didn't deserve any of her time and money. She berated my appearance and education, before storming out the door, naked and furious. I quit that day, started waiting tables, and never quite worked up the nerve to go back. I think the funniest tattoo I've ever seen was Naked Yoda. Grossest was a zombie vag. I cannot tell you how many times clients have grabbed me. The funniest was the guy who just reached out and honked my right boob. The scariest was the time my boss booked someone who was obviously mentally disturbed. He was filthy, couldn't communicate very well, and after years of invading people's personal space I feel confident in my assessment that he was a violent person. I tried to really impress upon him that this was a legit place and he was getting a real massage, but he didn't get it and grabbed my upper thigh hard. The most shocking was a really friendly artist who waited until his session was nearly over to try to drag my hand down to his nethers. I dropped his head/shoulders and walked out. He spent some time in the restroom, made some creepy comments about me to the receptionist, left me a crazy big tip and left. But biggest creep goes to a young man I worked on when I was in a resort town down south. He invited me up to his room for a drink. I refused. Edit for shall set you free. He lost it and yelled at me about being a and such and kept asking and name calling till we kicked him out. I told the manager he was not allowed back and I thought that was the end of it. That hole followed me around for 2 weeks, alternating between inviting me to run away with him back to his grandmother's house in Detroit and saying I was and he was going to kill me. If we'd known his stay was going to be so long, we'd have had him arrested. Biggest goes to the old white lady that went on a racist rant for an hour. Pretty sure I've posted that before. The toughest thing I've had to deal with is the internship I did during school. It was in an oncology ward. Many of the patients there did not have much time. They were my first clients. They were so kind and so happy to see us. The most grateful people I've ever touched. And most of them are gone. All that said, this is the best job in the world. I have been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and my pain won't let me work much longer. I'm completely heartbroken. I've wanted to do this since I was a child. I thought I would do it forever. Do it. Do it for me. You won't regret it. My mom is a massage therapist. She used to work out of our house. She had a studio downstairs where she would have people over for massages. One day, a woman came over who was probably in her late 60s. Oldish, slightly overweight woman. Now my mom, as is standard procedure, asks this woman to disrobe and get under the covers, while my mom waited outside. When she came back in after a few minutes after asking if the woman was done, the woman was standing in the middle of the room completely naked. The woman said, "Honey, I'm sure you've seen more than this in your day." She had not. Do it. I love it. Bloke here, I have to say there are some creepy phone calls, but that is as bad as it gets. One chap asked exactly what kind of massage I did. Common precursor to do you do extras? And I told him clearly about Swedish massage. He said, "Oh, that's something my partner and I would be interested in," and asked, "And for the ladies, do you do sensual massage?" I find this euphemism so frustrating. It literally doesn't imply what they want to imply, but it has become recognized as a word for sexy time. I said no. He then said, "Could you?" I said no. Then follows a common awkward situation where we try and both pretend that he hasn't just asked me for some kind of sexual service in return for money and finish the conversation as you might otherwise. This conversation and the time a rather lonely elderly gay man told me how much he appreciated having a pretty man to take care of him were the Woodside moments. Admittedly, when Mr. Lanelagay said that to me, I felt a bit gross, but also internally giggled, blushed and said, or he said, "I'm pretty." For a fleeting moment considered a life as the wealthy boy toy of an aging thespian. My ticket into the high society of homosexual retirees, feeling slightly jaded and ashamed of my life built on lies and sexual quid pro quo, but driven by the idea of inheriting his immaculate house and fortune. Then remembered I was a bit far down the road of life for that change of tack, having married a woman. I decided that I would diminish and remain Galadriel in the West, but the weirdness is worth it. Swedish massages are very fascinating, practice based on Western medical understanding of human physiology. You'll learn words like desquamation and lymphatic. There are perks, like ladies pay you to touch their body. There is admittedly a slightly pervy pleasure when you are massaging someone really lovely, but it is seldom and balanced by your professionalism and the amount of slightly tubby men one deals with. As a bloke, I have a disproportionately high level of men, because many women therapists won't see guys. It is great though, because men have more muscle and that's the fun parts for me, getting deep into a thigh or shoulder and working bits loose. Too long, didn't read. Some weird phone calls and fleeting life choice crisis aside, massage is great. Not me, but my karate/jujitsu instructor is one. Backstory: he is a small guy and kind of brownish. He walks in late one day and has this odd look on his face. I don't think much of it, and we finish the class. As I was about to leave, I figured I should ask what was wrong. I did. I regret it. He takes a deep breath and says, "Are you sure you want to know?" I felt obligated to listen to him. He's a great guy. He then begins to tell me about his day. Everything was fine until his last act he had. He, in the nicest way possible, described a lady of about 200 to 300 pounds. She had just got from the gym. I laughed at that part, but she's trying so good for her and was wanting to cool down and get relaxed. He said the lady was very nice, but he wasn't prepared for the job he was about to take on. He had to give her everything, massage under the lovely sweaty rolls, hot rocks, steam room. This lady had money, but that's not really the bad part. The lady was done with her massaging and the works and went to their bathroom. He said she was in there until just 5 to 10 minutes before they closed. She left and he said he wanted to wash up. As he was walking towards the bathroom, he said he smelled the worst smell. He opens the bathroom and sees this lovely painting made from her, of him. He still doesn't know why he couldn't smell it before, and for about a week or two was scared to go to work. They got her picture from the camera, got her back. Edit: too long, didn't read. Paintings. not a massage therapist, but when one of my friend's brother was 15, he looks much older, the masseuse tried to give him a hand job. He said no. The masseuse said yes. He threatened her, and she finished the massage in peace. Massage therapist here. One thing I do not understand is why most, not all, men expect to get a HJ/BJ/sex out of the deal. That is not what I do, nor is it what I advertise. Why do you feel compelled to ask me, after an hour of massaging your, typically, hairy, yuck self for any additional benefits that can be had? I do not advertise in the hooker section or anywhere. Women, on the other hand, get their massage, stretch, say thank you and leave. Much more enjoyable experience for me. However, my clientele is mostly male. Size. I had a very eccentric, creepy as, client who came into our clinic one day wanting a TUI massage, type of Chinese massage. We usually leave the room to let the client strip down into underwear before we commence, but with this guy I had no chance to get away. Before I had time to give him a towel, he dropped his pants to reveal a sparkling blue G-string that barely kept everything in place. The guy was about 58, huge beer gut, grey hair, gold earring, and hairy like Robin Williams. As I started the massage, the guy started to tell me that he worked as an erotic masseuse specializing in body slide massage. This is where the masseuse gets oiled up and rubs his body and genitals all over before fucking the client at the end. The whole time I was massaging him, he kept telling me that I was really good with my hands. He also repeatedly told me how good he was at his job and plugging his business with a hinting tone. A very awkward session. I was getting a massage last week. In the little room next to mine was a talkative older gent. He was chatting away to his massage therapist. Then it went quiet. After a little while I heard him whisper, do you do this for everyone? I'm a beauty therapist and do massage too. I once had a girl roughly the same age as me, 20s, come in for a body massage as a present from her boyfriend. Whilst doing the massage I could see the oil looked weird, like a streaky brownish color, and it smelled weird. Well, the client smelled weird. After the massage we chatted for a bit, and she mentioned that she'd spent the morning fake tanning herself. Looked at my hands and they looked like I had just dipped them in chocolate, so brown. I then had to explain to her that it wasn't the best idea to do that, as she'd now be one big streaky mess. Tan fail. I know some girls have had creepy guys in for massages in the past, but luckily I haven't. Nothing exciting to tell though, I'm afraid. Although one girl had a guy in for a massage, and when she told him the massage was over, he offered her a 24 special extras. She ran off crying. Reminds me of my family trip to Vietnam. We had picked a legitimate tour guide company that suggested a nice family massage place for us. The building was pretty run down and painted in appealing lime green paint, so I anticipated a generally sketchy experience. So we all go in and follow our own respective masseuses into separate rooms. My masseuse kept asking me things in Vietnamese. No idea what she was saying, so I just kept smiling and nodding. Didn't lead to any sort of sexy time, so I believe the rest of my family also must have had a generally normal experience. I walk back to the waiting room. My dad and step siblings come out and simply look refreshed. Then I see my brother. He's smiling wryly. I obviously know he got a handy, which he later confirmed, but he doesn't tell anyone else. After a few minutes we all look at each other and ask, where is Cheryl? Finally my stepmom walks out with a grimace and has a dime-sized mark on her forehead where it looked like 6 layers of skin were rubbed off. Turns out the masseuse thought it would feel good to incessantly rub her thumb into her forehead. Cheryl had a scab on her forehead for a month. Moral of the story: everyone needs to visit Vietnam as soon as possible.